the clarity of a dream. Sky so blue, the grass so green, the rain can fall in the navy blue, deep and strong, straight and true. The blue line, they got the given sign. The belts and boots march forward in time. The wood and the leather, club and shield, swept like a wave across the battlefield. Now with all the clarity of a dream, the blood so red, the grass so green, the gleam of spur on the chestnut flame. Cavalry did burst upon the ranks. Oh, the iron will and the iron hand in England's green pleasant land. No music for the shameful scene. That night they said it had even shot me green.
So, what Constellation is a system we've designed using high-end DSP loudspeakers and pressure probes to change the acoustic of a space. So we work with a architect or acoustician and work in AutoCAD, and we develop a system that completely envelops the space. And that's really important because reverberation is not directional, it's omnidirectional, it comes everywhere. So we're not as much about power and large speakers and that kind of thing. It's really about even coverage and even distribution. So if you look over your head, that's what we have deployed in our demo system here at NAMM. Those are 4-inch ceiling speakers up above you, directional loudspeakers. On the ends of the truss hanging down are more loudspeakers aiming in. We have some subwoofers behind the stage, 10-inch MM10 subs, a couple of those. And we have subwoofers in each of those benches. And we have also some small 4-inch drivers in those benches. What we're missing in a real situation where we would do an installation is what our system does is kind of we create virtual walls, ceilings, and we can deal with the absorption or reflection of those walls. So if this was a real installation, there would be loudspeakers above your heads, laterally and behind us, but But since we're just trying to prove a concept here, financially that would have been not doable. But we think it's cool enough. The system is on right now. If I turn it off, it sounds like this. So this is what this space sounds like. And it's hard for me to talk. I have to, I don't know if you're hearing me. I can't get anything back. I can't get any vibe for it. And I have to speak louder. So I'm sure Sarah will explain that the same kind of effect with a musician playing in a dry environment. It's just not fun. You have to overplay and over-yell, and I'm going to turn it on. I'm not using a microphone, so that's one of the other aspects is these systems have been deployed just to go into places where they have meetings and conferences, and they don't have to use microphones anymore. Anybody in the audience can talk, and I can hear you just as well as you can hear me, and that alleviates people running around with wireless microphones for question and answer periods and stuff like that. But because it's an acoustic system, I can grab a microphone. Hello? And I'll come out of that top speaker. This system is, the Constellation is totally independent of any sound systems. When we speak to people, we don't even talk in regards to sound systems. It's an acoustic system. We don't talk to the sound department or the audio engineers. We have to have discussions with the architects and acousticians because it's those people that are determining the acoustic of the hall. And their budgets are way bigger than audio budgets by tenfold. So there are ways to manipulate the acoustic in a space physically by moving walls, moving ceilings, having drapery fly in and out, having coupled chambers. Sometimes they build empty spaces beside the concert hall, open louvered doors, and that couples the acoustic. Many times that can get into tens of millions of dollars to do those kind of changes, and many times they're subtle. So what we do is we work with the architects and acousticians. We want them to deliver us a very well-behaved room with a low reverb time. And that way we can add all these other acoustic environments for the different kinds of performance material. And that's the challenge, is the poor acoustician, if he has no kind of budget to do physical acoustics, says, what time do I pick? Is there going to be symphony in there? Okay. Is it going to be rock and roll? Okay, well, I'll pick something in between. I'll pick 1.4 or 1.6 seconds. So that's okay for maybe the opera, not quite enough for the symphony, and a nightmare for rock and roll. To have a 1.5 second reverb time, you bring in a big PA system, that's not a fun gig, because you're fighting the acoustic of the hall. So we can have them design it dead, and then with our systems, we can provide the end users with all these different settings. And the users just end up with a, in this case, iPad, and they can change the settings. They don't mess with details, the engineering aspects. They just want to be able to turn it off or on. And if a symphony's coming in, they'll have a little symphony button. That's it. It's pretty simple. So if a rock and roll act is coming in, or a big heavy metal act like Justin Bieber, you want to turn the system off so you get all that, you know, high power guitars and the triple kick drum action going on. So we have these systems installed in around the world in different kinds of applications, and this is a little application overview. This is a new performing arts center in Tallinn, Estonia, and it was built to do cinema right up till to symphony. So the reverb time is right around 1 second, and we can take it up to over 2 seconds if we want. And the symphony setting is typically around 1.5, 1.6 seconds. Sorry. We do installations in planetariums. Have a lot of fun with working with the sound designers to create cool experiences inside the planetariums. A good application is when you have an orchestra that performs on stage at a very nice sounding concert hall, and yet they have to go and rehearse in a very dead sounding rehearsal hall, and not a very pleasant environment for the orchestra. If you look at the face on this guy, he's not a happy camper. And so what we can do, I just noticed I looked up.
I never saw it until just now.
Man, no, I didn't notice it either. It scared me. Sorry. So what we can do is install a Constellation system,
into this rehearsal hall and give them basically the same acoustic that they would be playing and performing on. And we've even had some requests where they want us to get the measurements from Boston Symphony Hall or Avery Fisher or Musikverein or Concertgebouw or whatever and duplicate those settings. I mean, we can't identically duplicate the sound of a space because there's too much physical acoustics going on, but we can get a really close approximation for the orchestras to be able to rehearse in those environments. We also work with Cirque du Soleil and some other creative entities that use this system not only for acoustic purposes but for a creative effect. So they'll use reverb settings that are totally unrealistic, really long reverb settings, but they use it. They'll dim the lights. They'll have some fog rolling off the stage, and turn the reverb time up to many, many seconds, and take the audience into a big cavern or something, or some wild experience. If the lights were on, it wouldn't make sense because you look around and go, this can't be happening, but if you can't see the walls and there's a free bar, you don't really know what's going on. One of the cool projects that we worked on recently was Star Wars on tour. And what happened was some promoters got together and said it'd be cool to take Star Wars kind of on the road and bring it to the people. So they took all the best video segments of all the movies. John Williams wrote the score for Star Wars, so he wrote an original score for this, using all of the components of the movies. And the mandate was this was going to travel with the symphony orchestra. They weren't going to just play it through speakers. They wanted a real symphony orchestra and a choir. So the challenge was to take that symphony and choir and put them in this really nice sounding environment. This is the O2 Arena in London. This is where the first two shows were the test beds. And very dead acoustic, a nightmare acoustic, good for rock and roll, and the building was designed for rock and roll shows, but a nightmare for the orchestra. So the original sound designer that was hired well in advance was told that this is going to be a challenging environment for the orchestra, so we need to come up with ways that we can make it pleasant. So he got out his calculator and said 80-piece orchestra, 40-piece choir, 120 in-ear monitors. Pretty simple. And he presented that to the production people, and they said, well, we can consider it. And in reality, these are the seats of the audition monitor engineers who are all in rehab, because nobody would agree to do something like that, 120 individual mixes for a symphony and a choir. So that didn't work. And that's true. Nobody would agree to take that gig. So the next idea, to redeem himself, he said we should put maybe 60 floor wedges amongst the orchestra, and that'll take care of them hearing themselves. So they did a test, and that didn't go very well. There's no room for the orchestra. There's lots of speakers on stage, but the test was bad because the musicians did not want to have speakers blasting at them on stage and having reverb coming through. The front of house engineer was like, nah, that's not happening. I can't mix all that crap. I need to mix the orchestra. So those are those empty seats over there. That guy is long gone. So they hired a new sound designer named Fred Vogler from LA here, who does a lot of work at the Hollywood Bowl. And he heard of our Constellation system, and he said, we have this unique project. Can you make it a portable system in case this does well and it decides that we can tour it? So we worked with Fred. We worked with the sound company that was doing this production. And the orchestra, and said, you know, we need to work with the set people because we need to put speakers where we need to put them to make this work. And we had to make sure we weren't in the way of any visual elements because video wins all the time. And lighting, you know, you can't block a light. So we worked it out. So we enveloped the orchestra with speakers. You can see some of the lights on the back, subwoofers. So completely enveloped around the orchestra laterally. And as well, we had loudspeakers in the lighting canopy coming down. So we created basically a virtual orchestral shell, electronically, basically. So we were able to simulate walls and a ceiling around the orchestra. And we gave it about a 1.5 second reverb time, So they were playing in their own little concert dream world on stage. They didn't use any monitors on stage, which was great. They had 2 monitors, one for the narrator and one for the soloist, but other than that, it was all natural playing for the orchestra. So that toured for 2 years, and it's going back out again in 2011.